Hello there. Thank you for tuning into Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of Town Meeting Day 2026. My name is Bobby Lucier. This program is part of a series of candidate forums that we are hosting in advance of Town Meeting Day, which is Tuesday, March 3rd. These forums are made possible by Town Meeting TV's generous underwriting partners. Thank you so much to our underwriters. You can find all of our forums at cctv.org/TMD2026 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel, where auto-generated captions are available. If you're tuning in on YouTube, please click the subscribe button so you can stay tuned into local democracy. On tonight's program, we're hearing from the two candidates running for the Ward 8 City Council seat in Burlington. Those candidates are the incumbent Merrick Broderick, as well as the Democrat Ryan Nick. Merrick Broderick, the progressive incumbent, and Ryan Nick, the Democrat. Thank you both so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We have a list of questions for you, but it sounds like we've got a number of callers on the line that have their own questions for you. You'll have 90 seconds to answer each question tonight. We will allow rebuttals in the instance where one of you names the other. Otherwise, no rebuttals tonight. If you're tuning in live, we welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. We ask you to be patient because we do have a number of callers already in the queue, but calling in is the whole reason we do this, so please give us a call. We'll do our best to prioritize your question. We are going to screen calls to make sure that calls are not repeated, and we're asking that you share your name, the town you live in, and that your question be for both of the candidates tonight. So not just directed at one candidate in particular. We want to make sure candidates have equal time to speak, so questions from callers should be directed to both candidates. Okay, so let's get started with 1-minute opening statements, and we're going to start with Merrick Broderick, the incumbent progressive. Your 1-minute opening statement. What do you love about Burlington, and why do you want to serve as city councilor again? Great.
First of all, thank you to Town Meeting TV for being able to host these shows and having us on to talk to people about our races. My name is Merrick Broderick. I am your Ward 8 city councilor running for re-election on Town Meeting Day. What I love most about Burlington is that we are a community full of people that care. We are a community full of people that are not afraid to challenge the status quo, to fight for progress for themselves, but also fight for progress for their neighbors and protect their neighbors. And as someone who since coming to Burlington, came into that world, and now I'm in elected office, thanks to all of that work, I'm just so grateful and so proud to be able to represent Ward 8, and I'm asking for your vote once again because the work isn't finished, and I'm excited to continue my work of making Burlington a city that we can all afford and a city that we can all call home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ryan Nick, your opening statement, 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Nick, and I'm running to represent Ward 8 on the Burlington City Council. I grew up in Vermont, and after leaving for college, I chose to come back and make Burlington my home. Between the lake, the mountains, and most importantly, the people, this is truly a special place to live, and it would be my honor to serve you on the Burlington City Council. Over the past decade, I've spent my time giving back to the community that's given so much to me. I've strengthened Burlington by working with local businesses, serving on the Planning Commission, and as a Justice of the Peace. Here in Ward 8, I'm especially proud to have helped restart the MPA, because strong neighborhoods begin with engaged neighbors. But right now, Burlington is struggling, and we're facing crises on multiple fronts. Housing is scarce, rents are high, and too many apartments don't match the price. We need to increase the housing supply because we shouldn't have to feel lucky when we find a good place to live, and young folks should be able to find a home and build a life and a family. We also continue to see too many of our neighbors suffering in our downtown. These people are human beings in need of acute help, and we continue to let them down day after day. We need the city and the state to step up and get people the assistance they so desperately need. I'm running for Ward 8 because it deserves better than the status quo, and the city should actually fix the problems it has.
Great. Thank you both so much for being here tonight. We're going to jump to our first phone call. Hi there, caller. Can you hear us okay?
Sorry, I'm going to do this call. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great, yes. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both of the candidates here tonight?
Yeah, my name is Eli. I'm calling from Burlington's North End, and my question for the candidates is what they plan to do to lower the cost of housing for UVM students who live off campus.
Okay, thank you so much, Eli, for that question. And we're going to start with Ryan. Nick, your thoughts on lowering housing costs specifically for UVM students that are off campus?
Well, it's an issue that affects a lot of Ward 8 voters, and I think we've seen a lot of success with the passing of neighborhood code, but there's a reason we haven't seen a lot of the changes in neighborhood code being taken up. Regulatory barriers are too high, it's too difficult to get permits, and there's a lot of people who just won't work in the city of Burlington due to the difficulty. And so I think we need to increase the housing supply and give renters and students and young professionals the option of housing, and that in turn will lower or help defray the raise of rents.
Thank you, Ryan. Merrick, your thoughts on lowering the housing costs for off-campus students?
Yeah, thank you. Great question, and one that's very important to the ward. I believe that our housing strategy, much like our mayor has stated, it needs to take multiple approaches. Development is very important in this city, and I think fully unlocking our neighborhood code through continuing to open up our system to densification and building more will certainly get us in a position where more people can be housed, but it's also about ensuring that that housing is affordable. So I've supported for the past 2 years, and with fellow councilors passed a resolution starting the process of investing more money in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is money that can directly help fund permanently affordable and social housing, and I think we need to do much more of that because just because we build more does not mean that prices are going to go down, and I think that it's just very important that if we're going to build more housing, it needs to be affordable for everyone. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much for your response on that. We're going to take another phone call here. Thank you so much for calling in. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both candidates tonight?
Hey, my name is Emily Lee, and I am calling from Ward 8 in Burlington, Vermont.
Great. And what's your question?
My question, am I live right now?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. My question is about constituent engagement. I live in Ward 8, and I have been really disappointed with how my city councilor has been communicating with me, in that I have not received any communication ever about what's happening on city council, and I don't feel very well served. So I'd be interested to hear from both of the candidates about how they plan on communicating with constituents and what their history and record is around communication and constituent engagement.
Thank you so much for that question, Emily. We'll start with Merrick on that one.
Great. Thank you for the question, and I deeply apologize that I've not been able to engage with you through the past 2 years. Constituent engagement is very important to me, and there's multiple channels that I have sought to engage with constituents, whether it's through social media, Front Porch Forum, from our bi-weekly post from the Burlington Progressive Caucus, and also my engagement on the ground. I think specifically my greatest achievement in that regard is organizing and working with UVM students to address the substandard housing conditions on the UVM campus, and organizing with them to lead on a resolution that is going to hold our colleges and universities accountable for their housing conditions and their failure to report. There's certainly even more to do in regards to this, and regards to constituent services, and I'm hoping to do a lot more of that, both on the campaign trail and if reelected in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Ryan, your thoughts on how you would approach engaging with your constituents?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons I was so invested in restarting the MPA, to have residents have direct access to their counselors in their community and their neighbors. That being said, one of the things I learned as being chair of the Ward 8 MPA is we don't give the MPAs nearly enough resources to have like a really robust meeting and meeting schedule and, engagement from the community. So I would look to, support the MPA system and, make that a much more accessible meeting for residents of all sorts. I walk around Ward 8 all the time. I'm always getting a pizza from Ferlino's or a drink from Wallflower, or stopping by the library. And so I think it's, just walking. Ward 8 is one of the most walkable wards in the city. And, you ever catch me with my dog Woody, you'll definitely stop and chat. And as many, of my neighbors know that I'm always accessible by phone or email, often replying early in the morning or late at night. And so, I hope to continue that communication style as your city councilor.
Great, thank you. Another question on the phones. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both candidates tonight?
Hi, my name is Ken, and I'm a Burlington resident. I'd like to know what both candidates do for their day jobs, how they pay their rent, and how they plan to balance work and council duties.
Thank you for the question, Ken. We'll start with Ryan on that one.
Thank you, Ken. So I work in commercial real estate and wear a lot of different hats, from property manager to, tenant relationships and, finding new businesses to come to town and helping them find space in town. And one of the things I really love about my job is that it helps me, have a hand in shaping my community and, being able to, get to know the people who are coming to town, the people who are leaving town, frankly, because of the state of our downtown, and trying to, just really have a hand in, the downtown atmosphere and the culture we're trying to create in Burlington.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Merrick, your day job and how you pay your rent and how you balance that with your council duties.
Yeah, thank you. So, for the past, ever since I've come to Burlington, I've been a student pursuing a degree in biological sciences, and so because of that workload that I've had to balance with council work as well, and the paltry stipend that we receive that I believe should be much more given the amount of work we have to do. I have received support from savings from before I came up to college and in the summers, and from my family as well, and I'm eternally grateful for that. And I think that's something that a lot of folks in Ward 8 can speak to, some who don't even have access to that, and I think that's something that I take with me when talking to people about affordability specifically, especially around housing. I think it's very important. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much, and thank you for making time for this important civic service. We have another call. Just a reminder that you can call in 802-862-3966 with your questions. We have at least one more caller on the line here, but we have enough time here for a couple more calls if you'd like to call in and ask a question to both candidates. Hi there. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both candidates tonight?
Yes, hi, my name is John, and I am from Burlington, and my question for both candidates is simply based on what the downtown businesses have been facing over the last several years, what are each candidate's plans to support downtown businesses? Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. We'll start with Merrick on downtown businesses.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think how our city is currently constructed, especially around funding and just making it a city that folks want to live in, business is very important. And I think one of the major root causes from that affecting our businesses that is local, that we can control outside of the global factors of the changes in how we engage in business nowadays, is rent. I think that we talk a lot about rent for residential properties and solutions and how to address that aspect of affordability, but I think that we don't talk about enough the effect that rising rents and the exploitation of businesses by their landlords. We don't talk about it enough, and I think when we talk about rents and we talk about affordability going forward, I think we need to make the conversation more all-encompassing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Merrick. And Ryan, your thoughts on downtown businesses, how we can support them?
Well, I have the privilege of working downtown as well as living downtown, and I'm walking up and down Church Street every day and seeing the issues that a lot of those businesses face. I think the city could be doing more in terms of Narcan training and assault prevention to teach these vulnerable employees who work in these downtown businesses how to respond to a crisis when it occurs at their footsteps. I think a lot of the businesses in the past, 5 or so years have felt kind of abandoned by the city, and that's why they've been leaving. And we've had to rely kind of on each other to create sort of a cohesive community amongst ourselves, because we just haven't seen the support from the city that we need. I do want to thank the mayor for collaborating with the governor. It made a real difference this last holiday season with the increased state police patrols and the side court. I've heard from a lot of businesses that this past holiday season was at least anecdotally a lot better, and people felt a sense of safety and an improved atmosphere.
Great. Thank you both for your thoughts on that. Another phone call here. Let's see if we can. Hi there. Can you hear us? Hello? Can you hear us?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Hello. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both of the candidates tonight?
Absolutely. My name is Sam. I'm calling from Ward 8. And my question is, what are some concrete actions you've taken or would take to address our housing and affordability crisis?
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. And we'll start with Ryan on this one, housing and affordability.
Thank you, Sam. And I think I spoke to this a little bit earlier with the neighborhood code changes and making sure that the city is a little bit more clear in how it allows housing to be developed and the standards that we hold landlords and developers to. Housing is unaffordable for too many in our community, and we need to find a way to address that, whether it be through partnering with state programs. I doubt we'll get any help from the federal level, but finding money there to help support renters, and ultimately, building more and developing more housing in a strategic way will help improve the housing costs in Burlington. I think also we need to look at inclusionary zoning and revamping that, because the policy that's been in place has been there for years, and I know it's part of the mayor's plan to look at housing, and I don't think the current interim zoning policy is working or being as effective as it needs to be to allow our neighbors to afford their apartments.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Nick, Merrick Broderick, your thoughts on housing and affordability in the city?
Yeah, thank you. So, as I previously mentioned, I co-sponsored a resolution that would commit us to doubling our investment in the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But in addition to that, housing is being built. It's not nearly enough, but just in Ward 8 alone, you have many units being put up at the old VFW hall, all commissioned in part by Champlain Housing Trust. So those are going to be permanently affordable units. You have the old YMCA, where I think like 70 units are going to be put up there, and that's just in Ward 8. And we have a lot more in the pipeline with the South End Innovation District, and in the hopefully in the shorter future than I think is going to happen, the Memorial Auditorium project and that whole memorial block. I'm very excited about that. And then just in terms of baseline affordability, we need, as a city and a state, to push for rent stabilization for renters. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much for that. Back to the phones. Hello there. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both candidates tonight?
Hello?
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great.
My name is Lee Morrigan. I live in Ward 3. Please answer this question with a number. We are in an unprecedented housing crisis with Burlingtonians living outside, many of which are your actual constituents. What is the total dollar amount you've accepted from landlords, developers, and realtors? Please answer with a number. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee. And we'll start with Merrick on this question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I believe I have accepted $100 from Erhard Manka, a very well-known affordable housing advocate in the city, who is also a landlord. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrick. Ryan, Nick, question about how much funding you've accepted for your campaign from landlords.
Well, I have to offer Lee an apology. I don't have an exact number. The campaign finance reports are publicly available. You're happy to look at them. And we've been focused on campaigning and reaching out to the residents of Ward 8. From what I know of my donor list, it's a lot of community leaders and people who care deeply about this community. And they support my vision for, what the city of Burlington should be.
Great. Thank you both so much. We've got about 10 minutes left. At least one more caller on the line. 802-862-3966 is the number to call if you'd like to ask a question here. Hi there. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question for both candidates tonight?
Awesome. My name is Lawrence. I'm calling from Ward 8. And my question's a bit of a somber one. Many people I've lost friends to opioid use disorder. I've had people who've lost friends to opioid use disorder. One of the mayor's proposals for community safety is an overdose prevention center. I want to ask the candidates what outcomes you hope to see after this implementation, and what role do you plan to take to ensure this project is successful?
Great. Thank you so much for that question. And we'll start with Ryan Nick on that one.
Absolutely. You know, the opioid crisis and the drug crisis and the mental health crisis that we're seeing downtown is awful. And, you know, these people are in need of a lot of help. One of the things I've been disappointed with about the OPC process is that it hasn't been particularly transparent, and it's taking far too long to address a problem that we need help on yesterday. You know, even as someone who considers themselves fairly well involved, I'm not sure where the process is. You know, I don't know where it's going. I don't know where the timeline is. I know we've committed funds to it from the state level, but, you know, might those funds be better used somewhere else, you know, more immediately? I don't know. I also understand that in the phased approach, the OPC won't feature safe consumption on site. And so I wonder, you know, is that really aligned with the public messaging and the goals of the OPC? I think the community needs help now, and we need to figure out a way to use those funds to address the immediate crisis.
Thank you, Ryan. Merrick, your thoughts on the Overdose Prevention Center?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. I've fully supported the implementation of the OPC throughout the entire process. The funds are committed, and they are in the process of determining the correct site location. I think that is going to be a very important decision that needs to be made. The OPC needs to be placed in a location that is most accessible to the most people to fulfill its mission, and that mission is simply stop the death, stop the overdose deaths. It is obviously not the only solution. There's much more that needs to be done in the short term and the long term around mental health, around treatment, and I wish the project could be moving faster. I trust in the mayor's office that it is moving as fast as it possibly can, and it is my mission to continue supporting and ensuring that this facility is stood up and is in a place where it can help the most people. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both for that. Another question from a caller here. Caller, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Can you share your name, where you're calling from, and your question?
Hey, my name is Andre Clark. I'm calling from Burlington, and my question is, do you support mutual aid organizations like Street Cats Burlington, People's Kitchen, and Food Not Cops? And would you be willing to connect with members of the mutual aid community to help address the challenges our city faces, including the lack of adequate shelter for our unhoused neighbors?
Thank you so much for the question, Andre. We're going to start with Merrick on that one.
Great. Thank you for your question. I absolutely support the work of our mutual aid organizations in the city. And as I said before, it's one of the things that I love about the city that we live in, is that when there's a problem, there is always a group of people that is working to solve the problem just in their community. In regards to Food Not Cops specifically, I loudly and vocally defended their operations in our downtown against very, very heavy opposition, and I will continue to support them. I do talk often with these organizations, and I completely agree that much more needs to be done, not just in Burlington, but across Chittenden County and across Vermont, on ensuring that we are standing up shelters of all types, and then, of course, engaging in the work that needs to be done to solve our housing crisis. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Ryan, Nick, your thoughts on collaborating with mutual aid organizations?
Absolutely. These mutual aid organizations serve a vital function to our community. You know, they support those people most in need and are often able to address, you know, the root causes and symptoms of these issues. And so I think we need to improve our relationships with the mutual aid community and help break down the silos. One of the things that frustrates me about the city of Burlington is that too often we end up in these silos between mutual aid groups, between organizations and nonprofits and different factions of the city, and that really limits our ability to make any progress. And so, you know, I think if I'm lucky enough to be elected, I would look to break down the silos and improve the relationships between the mutual aid groups and the nonprofits and the Burlington community.
Great. Thank you both so much for that. Got about 5 minutes left here. I don't see a caller on the line, so we're going to go to our first prepared question, which is about city finances. As a city councilor, you'll be asked to vote on the city's budget. For 2 years, we have seen what the mayor calls a structural budget gap between revenue and expenses. So what solutions to the budget gap do you think the city needs to consider? And we're going to start with Ryan Nick.
You know, I think the city's in a really tough spot, and budget gaps, you know, put a lot of pressure on our community, our residents, our taxpayers. You know, people are already being taxed in an unfair way that, you know, pushes people out of our community and makes it unaffordable and inaccessible to live here. You know, I think it is tough that we need to consider cuts and look at what city programs are really impactful to our community and really vital, and prioritize the things that are working and maybe reevaluate the things that aren't. You know, I think we also have to explore creative ways to raise revenue, and, you know, figure out a way to balance the budget and move forward in a way that's financially stable and doesn't put a burden on our community.
Thanks, Ryan. Merrick, your thoughts on the budget gap?
Yeah, thank you. And year after year, our city has had to experience these budget gaps and find solutions to close them. I think about 3 ways of our city being able to do this. That's to raise taxes and other revenue. That's to grow our tax base, and that's to cut spending. I think, well, I don't agree with every single decision of the Modern Gov initiative. I think the mayor has done a great job at pursuing different ways that we can right-size our city government to save money. Growing our tax base, that's a much longer-term process, but I believe we are on the right track. As I mentioned before, if our housing goals and standing up housing all across the city, much more needs to be done on that. And then lastly, raising revenue. We are not taxed fairly. We need to tax the rich. We need to tax wealth. I completely support the House resolution that is moving in Montpelier to hopefully address that. But there's also other ways that we can raise revenue. I think specifically targeting institutions like the University of Vermont with fee-for-service or payment in lieu of taxes, coming into an agreement with them so that they can provide more into the pot so we can continue to provide adequate public services for our community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much. And we've got just a couple minutes left, so we're going to move to closing statements now. In about 30 seconds here, we'll start with the incumbent progressive, Merrick Broderick. Your 30-second closing statement here.
Yeah, thank you. So once again, thank you to Town Meeting TV for having us on tonight. I encourage everyone in Ward 8 and across Burlington to vote March 3rd. In Ward 8, it's at Fletcher Free Library, 7 to 7. This is an opportunity, in my opinion, to reflect on the issues that are facing Burlington, chief among them affordability. And it's also a time for us to make a choice. Do we want to make the choice to continue to fight and move forward, or do we want to continue to stagnate and go back to the tradition of empty promises? I hope the voters are thinking of that in their decision making, and I'm very excited to once again earn your vote this March. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Merrick. And 45 seconds for you, Ryan. It's a little bit over. 45 seconds for closing statement.
I'll try to keep it short. Thank you again to Town Meeting TV and to the residents of Ward 8 for tuning in tonight. We deserve a Burlington where students love where they live and can actually picture a future. We deserve a Burlington where the lake is clean, the air is fresh, and the produce is local. We deserve a Burlington where Vermonters want to come to enjoy the culture, the arts, and everything we have to offer. Please reach out at ryanforbtv.com. I would love to hear your vision for Burlington.
Great. Thank you both so much for coming in tonight to talk about the issues, for taking questions. Thank you both for running. Really appreciate it. And thank you, as always, for tuning in to Town Meeting TV and staying tuned to local democracy, and for voting on March 3rd. You can find this program and many more on our website, cctv.org/TMD2026. You can also head to our YouTube channel, and again, don't forget to cast that ballot on Town Meeting Day on or before March 3rd, and then you can tune in to Town Meeting TV as soon as the polls close at 7 o'clock for the results of the election. So that's all for tonight. Thank you so much for watching and sharing Town Meeting TV.